Good day, everyone. I'm Ian Dave A. Ohario, a base criminology second-year student of Norso. So today I'm gonna discuss about institutional correction lesson 3. So the topic outline is the institutional agencies in the Philippines, Code of Kalantiao, 7 institutional corrections of the Philippines, New Bilibid Prison, San Ramon Prison and Penal Farm, Ewahig Penal Colony, Correctional Institute for Women, Davao Penal Colony, Sablayan Penal Farm, Leyte Regional Prison, Provincial Jail System, Public Attorney's Office, PAO. So first let's discuss about institutional agencies in the Philippines. So civil society includes the non-government organizations, people's organizations, religious organizations, academia, and the media provide support services such as health services, training, livelihood, spiritual guidance, and counseling. So that's the first. Then business sector has minimal participation in correction service but offers tremendous opportunity. So the two institutional agencies in the Philippines are: first is the civil society, which helps organizations, religion organizations, and media to train and give guidance. And second is the business sectors that gives more tremendous opportunities for the people. So Bureau of Corrections history. Prison system was community based. Natives who defied or violated the local laws were meted appropriate penalties by the local chieftains. Incarceration in the community was only meant to prevent the culprit from further harming the local residents. When the Americans took over in the 1990s, the Bureau of Prisons was created under the Reorganization Act of 1905. So the history of the Bureau of Corrections are community based. Then the one that gives punishments are the local chieftains o mga pinuno ng tribo. Then incarcerations was also a community based to prevent any harm in the residents in the area. So the 7 institutional corrections in the Philippines are the San Ramon Prison and Penal Farm, which is located in Zamboanga City, established to confine Muslim rebels and recalcitrant political prisoners opposed to the Spanish rule. The facility, which faces Hulu Sea, has the Spanish-inspired dormitories and originally set on a 1,414 hectares sprawling estate. So San Ramon Penal Farm was located in Zamboanga City. Then it is built in order to confine Muslim rebels and political prisoners that conflicts with the Spanish rules. Then the facilities are located also in east faces to the Hulu Sea, and the buildings are Spanish-inspired dormitories, which has 1,414 hectares sprawling estate. Second is the Ewahig Prison and Penal Farm. Before the reconstruction of San Ramon Prison, the Americans established in 1904 the Lohet Penal Settlement, now Ewahig Prison and Penal Farm, on a vast reservation of 28,072 hectares. It would reach an aggregate total land area of 40,000 hectares in the late 1950s. Was located on the westernmost part of the archipelago and far from the main town to confine incorrigibles who the government had found little hope of rehabilitation. Puerto Princesa City. So Iwahig Prison and Penal Farm are located in Puerto Princesa City. Then the prisoners there has low rehabilitation hope, that's why they are confined there. Then it has a wide reservation area averaging 28,072 hectares. Third, Correctional Institution for Women, o CIW, created on November 27, 1929 under Act number 3579, was founded to provide separate facilities for women offenders and to cater to their gender difference, located in Mandaluyong, Metro Manila. So Correctional Institution for Women was built and created on November 27 in order to separate the male and female prisoners based on the gender. Then it is located in Mandaluyong City, Metro Manila. Next is Davao Penal Colony, opened in January 21, 1932 under Act Number 3732, located in southern Mindanao. So, then, the new Bilibid Prison was established after an increasing number of commetals to the old Bilibid Prison in Manila. Established in 1935 in a southern suburb of Muntinlupa, Rizal. The old prison was transferred into a receiving center and as a storage facility. So the new Bilibid prison was established after the increasing number of prisoners in the old Bilibid prison in Manila. That's why it is established. Then it is located in the southern part of Muntinlupa, Rizal. Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm, located in Occidental Mindoro, under Proclamation Number 72 issued on September 26, 1954. So Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm is located in Occidental Mindoro under the Proclamation Number 72. Then Leyte Regional Prison under Proclamation Number 1101 issued on January 16, 1973. So that's the last. Then, the Bureau of Prisons was renamed Bureau of Corrections under the new Administrative Code of 1987 issued on November 23, 1987 and Proclamation Number 495 of the President. So, before it is called Bureau of Corrections, the first name was Bureau of Prisons. Then, in the new Administrative Code that is issued in November 23, and by the proclamation of the President, it is renamed as a Bureau of Corrections. Philippine correctional system has two systems-based approach, namely institution-based and community-based approach. So both systems are being implemented on a fragmentary basis by three departments of the executive branch of the government. So the first is Department of Justice, second Department of Interior and Local Government o DILG, third Department of Social Welfare and Development, so DSWD. First is the DOJ, DILG and DSWD. So that is the three departments of executive branch of the system. So first, let's define Department of Justice o DOJ. Under this are the Bureau of Corrections, Parole and Probation Administration, and the Board of Pardons and Parole. So under DOJ are the Bureau of Corrections and Parole Probation of the inmates and incarcerated person in the prison cell. So takes care of the national prisoners, those who are sentenced to a prison term of 3 years and 1 day to lifetime imprisonment. So that's why they give parole and probation to the good inmates inside the jails. So Department of Interior and Local Government o DILG. Under these are the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology BAGAMP, which runs the city, municipal and district jails and the provincial jails through their respective provincial governments. So under DILG are the BJMP o the ones like the warden of the jail. So they are under DILG. Then the provincial jails are operated by the provincial local government units. So the local LGUs. It is operated by local LGUs. So next, municipal jails. So municipal jails has most penalty range from 1 day to 6 months for municipal jail inmates. So municipal jails are the penalty ranges from 1 day to 6 months. So it is just a little time. Then city jails, penalty ranges from 1 day to 3 years. So from a little months of penalty, then 3 years. Then district jails is a cluster of small jails, each having a monthly average population of 10 or less inmates and is located in the vicinity of the court. Penalty for the crime committed is more than 6 months, so it is just a little time only. Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD. Under this is the Juvenile and Justice Welfare Council, takes care of the sentenced youth offenders. So under DSWD are the youth offenders. So just like if a child do a crime, so they are under DSWD, DSWD handles the child who commits crime. So National Training School for Girls, located in Sampaloc, Tanay, Rizal, and it caters to youth offenders coming regions 4, 5, and NCR. So it is the National Training School for Girls. National Training School for Boys, located at Marilac Hills, Alabang, Metro Manila. 8 other RRCYs are located in Barangay Orayong, Bawang, La Union for those coming from Region 1, 2, and Cordilleras. Barangay Ayala, Magalang, Pampanga for Region 3. Nueva Valencia in the Island Province of Guimaras for Region 4. Barangay Candabong, Argao, Cebu for Region 7. Barangay Santo Niño, Leyte for Region 8. Barangay Anastasio Polancio, Dipolog, Zamboanga del Norte for Region 10. Region 9, Gingoog City for Region 10. Barangay Bago Oshiro, Davao City for Region 11. Youth offenders from Caraga region are sent either to Dipolog, Gingoog, or Davao depending on which is most accessible. So that's the National Training School for Boys and where they are located. Republic Act 9344, Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act of 2006. Under the law, children 15 years old and below would be exempted from criminal liability. This act that's where DSWDs comes in. They handle the youth offenders. So because under the law, children 15 years old and below would be exempted from criminal liability. So when they do crime, DSWD handles them. Youth offenders ages 15 to 18 years old could only be criminally charged if they committed the crime with discernment. So here, if the age ranges 15 to 18, then you can, if you do crime, you are criminally charged it. Code of Kalantiaw. Listed 18 orders for the proper punishment depending on the gravity of the offense. Punishment range from a light fine to being cut to pieces and thrown to crocodiles. As early as the 1960s, historians began to question the validity of the code. So, the Code of Kalantiaw listed 18 orders for the proper punishment. So, depending on the crime that happened. So, the light fine is being cut to pieces and thrown to crocodiles. So the punishment was so awful at that time. So as early as the 1960s, historians began to question the validity of the code. Was a legendary legal code in the epic story Maragtas. It is said to have been written in 1433 by Dato Kalantiaw. So it has been written in 1433. That's why it is called as the Code of Kalantiaw, because of it is written by Dato Kalantiaw. It was actually written in 1913 by Jose E. Marco as a part of his historical fiction, which he attributed to a priest named Jose Maria Pavon. So actually, the writer of that code was Jose E. Marco, a historical fiction. Then in 1917, the historian Josue Songkoya wrote about the Code of Kalantiaw in his book, where he moved the location of the code's origin from Negros to the Panay province of Aklan. So it is when the historian Jose Songkoya wrote it, the code's origin is from Negros to Panay province of Aklan. Filipino historians later removed the code from future literature regarding Philippine history when Antonio W. Molina replaced the code with one sentence: La tesis doctoral del historiador Scott disbarate la existencia misma de dicho código. The doctoral dissertation of the historian Scott demolished the very existence of the code. Teodoro Agoncillo described the code as a disputed document. Some history texts continue to present it as historical fact. The story is still believed by people in the central province. So it is later removed from the future literature and replaced with sentence. The doctoral dissertation of the historian Scott demolished the very existence of the code. So then Teodoro Agoncillo described the code as a disputed document which is not a valid document. Then some history texts continue to present it as a historical fact, though many believes that it is a fact, the Code of Calantiao, and also many believes that it is a disputed document. So, but the story is still believed by people in the central province. Maragtas and the Code of Calantiao are something that serious historians have to study more careful. What Walter Scott failed to consider in his judgment is the nature of the transmission of Ilonggo local literature. He just limited himself with evaluating a relatively recent attempt into writing what Ilonggos have bequeathed to their descendants through generations by means of oral traditions. So the historians are so Code of Calantiao must be studied by historians more carefully because they failed to consider the judgment in the nature of transmission of Ilonggo. So it is the Code of Calantiao is based on Ilonggo's local literature, but when evaluating it, they did not properly and carefully study that code. So that's why the Ilonggos have bequeathed to their descendants through generation by means of oral tradition. So it is passed by another generation to generation by oral tradition. So Article 1. You shall not kill, neither shall you steal, neither shall you do harm to the aged, lest you incur the danger of death. All those who infringe this order shall be condemned to death by being drowned in the river or in boiling water. So the Article 1 of the Code of Calantiao was, you shall not kill, neither shall you steal. So if you did not follow this, then you will be thrown into the river or in the boiling water. Article 2, you shall obey, let all your debts with the headman be met punctually. He who does not obey shall receive for the first time 100 lashes. If the debt is large, he shall be condemned to thrust his son in boiling water thrice. For the second time, he shall be beaten to death. So if you can't pay all your debts, then the punishment was, first, if it is not too large, then 100 lashes. Then second, if it is increasing debt, then you must thrust your hand in the boiling water thrice. Then if it is so large, then you shall be beaten to death. Then Article 3, obey you. Let no one have women that are very young, nor more than he can support, nor be given to excessive lust. He who does not comply with, obey, and observe this order shall be condemned to swim for 3 hours for the first time, and for the second time to be beaten to death with sharp thorns. So, failed to do so in this article. First, if you disobey this article, then you must swim for 3 hours straight. Then if you do this a second time around, then you shall be beaten to death with sharp thorns. Article 4. Observe and obey. Let no one disturb the quiet of the graves. When passing by the caves and trees where they are, give respect to them. He who does not observe this shall be killed by ants or beaten to death with thorns. So if you pass from in the grave areas or caves and trees, you must respect them. Give respect, be quiet, and fail to do so shall be killed by ants or beaten to death with thorns. Article 5. You shall obey he who has exchanges for food. Let be always done in accordance with this word. He who does not comply shall be beaten for 1 hour. He who repeats the offense shall be exposed for 1 day among ants. So the fifth article is, he who exchange for food, be let it be always done in accordance with these words. So if you do not comply with this, then you shall be beaten for 1 hour, and fail to, if you repeats the offense, then you shall be exposed for 1 day among ants. Article 6, you shall be obliged to reverse sites that are held in respect, such as those of trees recognized worth and other sites. He who fails to comply shall pay with 1 month's work in gold or in honey. So this article, in Article 6, if you don't held respect in the trees or of recognized worth and other sites, then you must pay it with 1 month of work in gold or in honey. So it means that you must pay it full for 1 month. Article 7, they shall be put to death he who kills trees of venerable appearance, who shoot arrows at night at old men and women, he who enters the houses of the headmen without permission, he who kills a shark or a strict cayman. So in Article 7, you shall be put to death. The punishment is death if you kill trees of venerable appearance, if you shoot an old man and women, and if you enter the house of the headman and without permission, and if you kill a shark or a cayman, then the punishment is death. Article 8, slavery for a dome. A certain period of time shall be suffered by those who steal away the women of the headman, by him who keep ill-tempered dogs that bite the headman, by him who burns the field of another. So, if you, by him who burns, slavery for a dome, so the punishment is being a slave. If you steal the women of the headman, then by him who keep ill-tempered dogs that bite the headman, then by him who burns the field of another, so slavery is the punishment. Article 9, all these shall be beaten for 2 days. Who singing while traveling by night, kill the manual, tear the documents belonging in the headman, are malicious liars, or who mock the dead. So the punishment are being beaten for 2 days straight. Then when you sing at night, kill the manual, tear the documents belonging to the headman, and who mock the dead. So that's the Article 9. Article 10, it is decreed an obligation that every mother teach secretly to her daughters matters pertaining to lust, and prepare them for womanhood. Let not men be cruel, not punish their women when they catch them in the act of adultery. Whoever shall disobey shall be killed by being cut to pieces and thrown to the caimans. So it is a decreed obligation that every mother teaches her daughters to prepare for womanhood. So failing to disobey this shall be cut to pieces and thrown to the caimans. So for those who don't know what is caimans, caimans are a breed of crocodiles, alligators. So that's caiman. Article 11, they shall be born who by their strength or cunning have mocked at and escaped punishment, or who have killed young boys, or tried to steal away the women of the elders. So in Article 11, the punishment is being burned if you steal away the women of the elders and killed young boys. And Article 12, they shall be drowned, all who interfere with their superiors or their owners or masters, all those who abuse themselves through their lust, those who destroy their anitos, idols, by breaking them or throwing them down. So the punishment of the Article 12 is being drowned if you interfere with your superiors while talking and abusing yourself by the term of lust, and breaking your anitos or idols by breaking them or throwing them down, then the punishment is being drowned. Article 13. All these shall be exposed to ants for half a day. Who kill black cats during a new moon or steal anything from the ships of agorangs, however small object may be. So the Article 13, the punishment is being exposed to ants for a half day when you kill black cats during a new moon or steal anything from the chiefs. So Article 14, they shall be made slave for life, who have beautiful daughters and deny them to the sons of chiefs, and with bad faith hide them away. So in Article 14, if the punishment is being a slave for whole for his or her whole life, when you have a beautiful daughters and deny them to marry to the sons of the chiefs, then that is the punishment to being slave for life. Article 15, concerning beliefs and superstitions, they shall be beaten who eat the deceased flesh of beasts which they hold in respect, or the herb which they consider good, who wound or kill the young of the manaul of the white monkey. So Article 15's punishment was be beaten if you eat the deceased flesh of beast way they hold in respect, and if you on and the hair which they consider good, who wound or kill the young of the manaol or the white monkey. So if you fail to disobey that, then the punishment of the Article 15 is you shall be beaten. Article 16, the fingers shall be cut off of all those who break idols of wood and clay in their alangans and temples, of those who destroy the daggers of the Tagalons or break the drinking jars of the later. So in Article 16, fingers shall be cut off is the punishment when you break idols of the temples and who destroys the daggers of the Tagalons and break the drinking jars of the later. So that's the punishment of Article 16 is your finger shall be cut off. Article 17, they shall be killed who profane sites where idols are kept and sites where are burned the sacred things of their diwatas and headmen. He who performs his necessities in those places shall be burned. So the punishment are to be being killed or to be being burned. Neither of the two, either of the two, then it is where who profane sites where idols are kept. So if you enter the sites where your idols are kept or the sacred things are kept, then the punishment shall be is death and being burned. Article 18. Those who do not cause these rules to be obeyed, if they are headmen, they shall be put to death by being stoned and crushed. And if they are agorangs, they shall be placed in rivers to be eaten by sharks and caimans. So, if those who do not cause these rules to be obeyed, so for those, it is for the headman. If they fail to tell these rules, then they shall be placed in the rivers to be eaten by sharks and caimans. So that's Article 18. So next is the 7 institutional corrections of the Philippines. So first is the New Bilibid Prison. What is the New Bilibid? So this is the picture of the New Bilibid Prison. So it is located. New Bilibid Prison was located in Muntinlupa, Metro Manila, as I said earlier. Then designed to house the prison population of the Philippines. On November 15, 1940, prisoners were transferred to the NBP from the old Bilibid prison. So NBP is the New Bilibid prison. So officially named the New Bilibid prison on January 22, 1941. On January 22, 1941, the electric chair was transferred to New Bilibid prison. The penitentiary had an initial land area of 551 hectares, 1,300 acres, but 104 hectares to 260 were transferred to housing project of the Department of Justice DOJ. Additional land of the NBP reservation is used for the Bureau of Corrections headquarters. Also housed with those with numerous pending cases, multiple convictions, and sentence of more than 20 years. So, New Bilibid Prison is located in Muntinlupa, Manila, Metro Manila. Then it is established on November 15, 1940. Then officially named New Bilibid Prison on January 22, 1941. So, the New Bilibid Prison has housed with more than 1,000 prisoners which has a multiple convictions and sentence of more than 20 years. So they are sentenced of more than 20 years. So the prisoners in the new Bilibid prisons are convicts among the convicts. Then, in the late 1960s, fences were further reinforced with concrete slabs. In 1980s, the height of the concrete wall was increased and another facility was constructed known as Camp Sampaguita or the Medium Security Camp. The institution became the maximum security compound 1970s. Medium Security Camp, which was used as a military stockade during the martial law. Minimum Security Camp, whose first site was christened Bukang Liwayway. So, in the late 1960s, so the fences were further reinforced on concrete slabs. So first, the New Bilibid prison was being the wall was just fences, but they reinforced it with concrete slabs. Then in 1980s, the height of the concrete wall was increased. So it is in the 1980s they reinforced and evaluate it again. Then the concrete wall was increased. So medium security camp, which was used as a military stockade during the martial law. Then minimum security camp, whose first site was christened Bukang Liwayway. The old prison, then known as Cárcel y Presidio Correctional, Spanish Correctional Jail and Military Prison, occupied a rectangular piece of land that was part of the Mayhalik estate in the heart of Manila. Old prison was established by the Spanish colonial government on June 25, 1865. Via royal decree, it is divided into two sections: the carcel, which could accommodate 600 inmates, and the presidio, which could hold to 527 prisoners. As of May 2018, the NBP housed 26,877 convicted criminals. So, the old Bilibid prisons were also known as the Carcel y Presidio. So, carcel, it is divided in two sections. The first is the carcel, which accommodated 600 inmates, and Presidio, which could hold 527 prisoners, amounting 1,127 prisoners all in all. So it is the picture of the old Bilibid prison. Then next is the San Ramon Prison and Penal Farm. Picture of the San Ramon Penal Farm. Situated in southern Zamboanga City, Philippines. Established on August 21, 1870 through a royal decree promulgated in 1869, established during the tenure of Governor General Ramon Blanco. The facility was originally established for persons convicted of political crimes. Is considered by correctional experts as the second oldest penitentiary in the country, but the closure of the old Bilibid prison in 1940 made San Ramon as the oldest existing penitentiary today. So the San Ramon Penal Farm was located in southern Zamboanga City, Philippines, and it is established from the time of Governor General Ramon Blanco. So that's why it is called San Ramon Penal Farm, because of it is established in the time of Governor General Ramon Blanco, and it is considered as is one of the oldest penitentiary in the Philippines. But second, it is considered as second. But when the old Bilibid prison was closed, then San Ramon was made as the first and the oldest existing penitentiary today. It was established to house the Muslim rebels and prisoners opposing the Spanish leadership. So the prisoners in San Ramon Penal Farm was Muslim rebels that are opposing with the Spanish rules. Then the prison is right in front of the Holo Sea. Established on August 21, 1869, the Bureau of Prison was created under the supervision of the Department of Commerce and Police. Prisoners in San Ramon were required to do agricultural work. So the work of the inmates in San Ramon Penal Farm was to do agricultural work. In 1898, the prisoners in San Ramon were hastily released and the buildings destroyed. In 1899, Spanish rule in the Philippines ceased following their defeat to the Americans. All the buildings, warehouses, etc. were burned to the ground except the sugar mill and sawmill buildings. After the war, San Ramon was later established by the Americans. So, in 1898, the prisoners in San Ramon was released because the buildings were destroyed. And in 1899, the Spanish rule in the Philippines ceased following their defeat to the Americans. So, San Ramon Penal Farm is a Spanish was a Spanish prison cells, but when they are defeated by the Americans, they seized from there, and all the buildings warehouse were burned by the Americans. And after the war, San Ramon was reestablished by the Americans. In 1907, it was then reestablished and started to house prisoners from Mindanao. In 1912, General John Pershing, chief executive of the Department of Mindanao and Sulu, under Pershing's supervision, several buildings with a capacity for 600 prisoners were constructed. In 1927, the executive building erected when Valentin Macsaet was the prison superintendent. So in 1907, the San Ramon Penal Farm was reestablished. Coconuts, rice, corn, papaya, and other crops were also cultivated. The Philippine Coconut Authority took over management of the coconut farm from San Ramon. In 1995, Congresswoman Maria Clara Lobregat proposed the transfer to Bongyao Town in the mountainous area of Zamboanga to give way to a special economic zone. As of March 2019, approximately 1.9 thousand inmates in the San Ramon Prison and Penal Farm in the Philippines were Filipinos, and only 3 inmates were foreigners. So, the averaging inmates of San Ramon Penal Farm was 1.9 thousand. Then 3 of them were foreigners, and then the other were all Filipinos. Next is Iwahig Penal Colony. So this is Iwahig Penal Colony. Established in Puerto Princesa City, Palawan, during the Spanish regime that Puerto Princesa was designated. A specific area of Puerto Princesa was selected as the site for a correctional facility. So, the Iwahig prison cell was established and built in Puerto Princesa City, Philippines. Then, during the Spanish regime, Governor Luke Wright authorized the establishment of penal colony in the province of the Palawan on November 16, 1904. Penal settlement originally comprised an area of 22 hectares. Originally served as a depository the prisoners who could not be accommodated at the Bilibid prison in Manila. So, if there's too many inmates in the prison cell of the old Bilibid prison, then they are transferred to the Iwahig Penal Colony in Puerto Princesa, Palawan. Colonel John R. White, but under his supervision of the Philippines Constabulary, who became superintendent of Iwahig in 1906, the colony became a successful settlement. Vocational activities were offered. Prisoners could choose the vocational activities they wanted. Administrative Order Number 20 was promulgated in 1955 by the President and implemented by the Secretary of Justice and the Secretary of Agriculture and Natural Resources. Allowed the distribution of colony lands for cultivation by deserving colonists. President Carlos P. Garcia, a committee was created on August 16, 1959 to study the state of national prisons. Accordingly, prisoners in Iwahig were divided into 2 groups, the settlers and colonists. Aside from classroom and vocational instruction, prisoners are also given lessons in household arts and handicrafts in the gusali ng karunungang pantahanan. So they were guided and teach to do handicrafts and household arts. Iwahig is subdivided into 4 zones of districts. First is Central Sub-Colony with an area of 14,700 hectares. Second is Santa Lucia with 9,685 hectares. Third, Montible with 8,000 hectares. Fourth, Nagawan with 13,000 hectares. Iwahig is known today as prison without walls. Instead of concrete walls, the prison is surrounded by a wire fence. The prison and its 3,186 convicts are just 14 kilometers away from Puerto Princesa. So, Iwahig is known as prison without walls because just unlike the Bilibid prisons and any other penal colonies, Iwahig was just surrounded with a wire fences. Then it is housed with approximately 3,186 convicts. Surrounded by a thick coastal mangrove forest and a mountain range, that 26,000 hectare jail. The life conditions in Inuhig are better than in other prisons, and guards treat them with dignity. Unlike in the Bilibid prisons, in the Iwahig prison cells are much better because the warden treats the prisoners with dignity. As many as 200 minimum security inmates are responsible for farming and office-related work, as well as for supervising the tasks of the medium security inmates. All convicts learn a trade including farming, fishing, forestry, and carpentry. The idea of this prison is to rehabilitate criminals, but although penal farms see fewer escape attempts than other Philippines, a successful June 2014 jailbreak of 7 prisoners led authorities to forbid convicts from sleeping outside the barracks. So when way back 2014, when the 7 prisoners as when the 7 prisoners successfully successful in a jailbreak, then no, the authorities forbid convicts to sleep outside the barracks. So, Correctional Institution for Women, CIW. So this is a picture. Vocational activities of the women prisoners were limited to embroidery. When they became ill, the women were confined in a separate building which serves as a hospital with nurses and prison physicians. When women prisoners needed surgery, they were operated on at the Philippine prison. After the operation, they were transferred to the infirmary for convalescence. Prison authorities were aware of the conditions that the women prisoners had to endure. So the work of the women prisoner it was just embroidery, sewing, and in any other womanly task. Prison Director Ramon Victorio started a series of negotiations. The Philippine Legislature passed Republic Act Number 3579 in November 1929. It is authorized the transfer of all women inmates to a building in Welfareville at Mandaluyong, Rizal, and appropriated 60,000 for the move. The prisoners' vocational activities were expanded to include poultry, piggery, as well as cultivation of crops, flowers, and fruits. A number of female military prisoners were also confined in the institution but were later freed by the U.S. Army. After the war, the CIW resumed its normal operation. Weekly catechism classes were introduced. A dental clinic was built. So that's the CIW. The Bureau of Public Works made major repairs on the main building, and a workshop and infirmary were constructed for the inmates' use. In 2000, a new 4-story building was constructed. It is the growing congestion in the facility. The most congested facility among the 7 operating units under Bucor. June 16, 2003, first expansion of the facility. And at 2006, inmates were found to be engaged in handicraft, swine, poultry, and small-scale vegetable production. So, in the CIW colony, they were just do handicraft, swine, poultry, and small-scale vegetable production for women. Then September 18, 2007, it opened a branch in Mindanao, the Correctional Institution for Women in Mindanao, CIWM. Next is the Davao Penal Colony. So this is the picture. Gallery, old new. So the Davao Penal Colony is old and new picture. The first penal settlement founded and organized under Filipino administration, established on January 21, 1932, located at Santo Tomas, Davao del Norte. The settlement originally had an area of approximately 30,000 hectares in the districts of Panabo and Tagum, Davao del Norte. Was established by the virtue of Act number 3732. Several committees were created to pick a suitable state for the penal settlements. So the first penal settlement founded and organized under Filipino administration was the was the Davao Penal Colony. It is established on January 21, 1932. Governor Dwight Davis signed Proclamation number 414 on October 7, 1931 in accordance with the recommendation of these committees. The site offered ideal conditions for agricultural activities. So Governor Dwight Davis signed the Proclamation number 414. Then the site were offered official conditions for agricultural activities such as planting vegetables in the area. The colony was converted into a concentration camp. The prison complex itself had an area of about 8,000 hectares. On December 20, 1941, it held about 1,000 Japanese nationals guarded by Filipino military police, reporting to an American commanding officer. The entire settlement was thrown into confusion and a great number of prisoners escaped. Normal operations were inevitably disturbed. So, from December 20, 1941, the Davao Penal Colony held 1,000 Japanese inmates and was guarded by our own Filipino military police. On November 8, 1942, a representative of the Director of Prisons transferred the colony and its properties to the Japanese authorities. June 28, 1943, signed by the Director of Prisons, the organization of the colony in exile was authorized by virtue of Memorandum Order number 60 as a prisoner of war camp. About 2,000 Americans were held at Davao during the war, and prisoners were treated harshly. Then in the Davao Penal Colony, 2,000 Americans were held. Then they were treated harshly. September 7, 1944, several prisoners were aboard the transport Shinru Maru. American troops encountered bodies of dead prisoners decomposing at the place of their deaths without having been buried. So it is so harsh at that time. Then after the liberation of the Philippines, a great deal of rebuilding and repair had to be done. Tanglao Settlement, a site for released prisoners. The Dapicol Davao Penal Colony is likewise an extraordinary community segregated by farms from nearby municipal areas. Wood carvings by Dapicol prisoners, a sala table, picture frames, paperweights, and canes. So the work that they and the products they do in Davao Penal Colony was a sala table, picture frames, paperweights, and canes. The only enclave where Tagalog is the prevailing tongue, only penal establishment in the country where there is a camp for male and other camp for female offenders. So Davao Penal Colony or Dapicol was the only penal colony that housed with male and female offenders. Next, Sablayan Penal Prison and Penal Farm. So this is Sablayan Penal, located in Occidental Mindoro and relatively new. Established on September 26, 1954 by virtue of Presidential Proclamation number 72. The penal colony has a total land area of approximately 6,190 hectares. January 15, 1955, the first colonists and employees arrived according to prison records. Since it's established, the prison is continuously improved. So, this colony was located on Occidental Mindoro and established on September 26, 1954. Then, it has approximately wide land 16,190 hectares. So, next is the Leyte Regional Prison. This is the Leyte Regional Prison. situated in Abuyong, Southern Leyte, and established on January 1973. Was established a year after the declaration of martial law in 1972 by virtue of Presidential Decree Number 28 with a capacity of 500 persons deprived of liberty PDLs. So, the person deprived of liberty or PDLs are the prisoners or inmates, but they are called today as persons deprived of liberty. The LRP has an inmate capacity of 500. It follows the same agricultural format as the main correctional program in addition to some rehabilitation activities. In 2018, DepEd Leyte launched the senior high school for persons deprived of liberty. Inmates have been attending classes in temporary learning spaces for 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on weekdays. So in Leyte Penal Colony, they launched a senior high school for persons deprived of liberty for the inmates to study. The goal is to equip prisoners with life skills. The senior high class in the penal colony serves as a special class of a nearby high school. The DepEd is also pushing for the opening of the community college in the regional prison. As of March 2019, among all the inmates in the Leyte Regional Prison in the Philippines, 866 used to be farmers or gardeners. So in March 2019, among all the inmates in the Leyte Regional Prison in the Philippines used to be a farmer and gardeners in the area. Provincial jail. Jail is defined as a place of confinement for inmates under investigation and undergoing trial or serving short-term sentences. So, what is jail? So, that's why it is the place where inmates or PDLs, person deprived of liberty, was condemned. Then, prison refers to the national prisons or penitentiary managed and supervised by the Bureau of Corrections, an agency under the Department of Justice. So, prisons are the persons deprived of liberty. Municipal and city prisoners are committed to municipal, city, or district jails managed by the BJMP. The provincial jails are operated by the provincial local government units under the supervision and management by their respective governor in each province, and whose penalty ranges from 6 months and 1 day for 3 years. Provincial jail system was established in 1910. Provincial jails are under the supervision and control of the provincial governments. Each province of the country has been mandated by the American colonizers to establish their own provincial jails to be under their own supervision and control. That's why in all the places in the Philippines, they have provincial jails so that they can supervise and control it by their own. The Bureau of Jail Management and Penology was created pursuant to Republic Act 6975 signed on December 13, 1990 and became known as the LG Act of 1990. Develop and attend to the welfare of detainees. Provincial jail by providing subsistence and other welfare benefits and through provision of jail decongestion programs. Provide protection services and prepare the inmates socially, physically, mentally, and spiritually to become productive citizens for their eventual reintegration into the mainstream of society upon pardon or release. So, provincial jails provide rehabilitation for the inmates so that when they are given a pardon or release, they will become a productive citizen in the society. So, Public Attorney's Office or PAO is attached agency of the Department of Justice which provides indigent litigants free legal assistance. So that is PAO. Mandate: the PAO shall be an independent and autonomous office but attached to the Department of Justice in accordance with Section 38.3, Chapter 7 of Book 4 of this Code for purposes of policy and coordination. The PAO shall be principal law office of the government in extending free legal assistance to indigent persons in criminal, civil, labor, administrative, and other quasi-judicial cases. So, PAO are the ones who shall give free legal assistance to the persons. Then, powers and functions. The PAO shall independently discharge its mandate to render free of charge legal representation, assistance, and counseling to indigent persons in criminal, civil, labor, administrative, and other quasi-judicial cases in the exigency of the service. The PAO may be called upon by proper government authorities to render such service to other persons, subject to existing laws, rules, and regulation. So the powers and function of the PAO is to give free legal assistance for the indigent persons who needs their help. So what is the mission of the PAO? The Public Attorney's Office or PAO exists to provide the indigent litigants, the oppressed, marginalized, and underprivileged members of the society free access to courts, judicial and quasi-judicial agencies by rendering legal services, counseling, and assistance in consonance with the constitutional mandate that free access to courts shall not be denied to any person by reasons of poverty in order to ensure the rule of law, truth, and social justice as a component of the country's sustainable development. So, public attorney's office are the one who handles cases of the poor indigent people in the Philippines. So, they give free legal assistance and services without any pay. So that's the mission of PAO, Public Attorney's Office. So the vision of government agency that is good, centered, and dynamic bureaucracy that is responsive to the ever-growing legal needs of indigents and oppressed, led by highly competent, world-class, development-oriented, honest, dedicated, and nationalistic leaders and lawyers. So the vision of PAO is a God-centered and dynamic bureaucracy that gives free legal services and treatment to the indigent people who needs their help. Then by 2023, the Public Attorney's Office as the principal law of office of the government shall be composed of highly motivated, effective, and empowered public servants, consistently responsive to the ever-growing legal needs of the indigents and the other qualified persons, utilizing modern facilities, information and technology systems, and tools needed for efficient delivery of free legal aid services to promote access to justice, truth, and peace. So, that was the Public Attorney's Office vision. Key result areas: just and lasting peace and the rule of law. Sector outcome: rule of law. Organizational outcome: accessible, efficient, and effective legal service to indigents and other qualified person assured. So PAO gave their free legal services to people who are the poor of the poorest. So they give free legal helps to the persons indigent. Key strategies: enhance the quantity, quality, and timeless of legal services for the government and the public. Objective and trust: to provide the indigent sector access to counsels at the time of need, to implement the constitutional guarantee of free access to courts, due process, and equal protection of the laws. So PAO is the mainstream of this. Republic Act Number 9406, an act reorganizing and strengthening the Public Attorney's Office, PAO, amending for the purpose pertinent provision of Executive Order Number 292, otherwise known as the Administrative Code of 1987, as amended, granting special allowance to PAO officials and lawyers and providing funds therefore. So, in the Republic Act Number 9406, it gives the official funds and providing funds for the PAO lawyers and officials. Enough funds, they are given enough funds for the service. Highlights of the PAO law. So the indigenous test, then cases which may be provisionally accepted. Bail bond. Persons not qualified for legal assistance, public attorneys are prohibited from assisting the following parties: juridical persons, except those juridical entities which are non-stock, non-profit organization whose individual members will pass the indigency test of the office, provided their case involve land disputes and they are not the lessor thereof. Parties who do not pass the merit and indigency test unless appointed in the council, the official in criminal cases under existing laws, rules, and regulation. Parties represented by the party council and landlords of residential lands and buildings with respect to the filing of collection or unlawful detainer suits against their tenants. So this is the persons who are not qualified to for the legal assistance of PAW. Then that's all. Thank you.